Jan Ozer here from the vNova booth. I'm here today with Guido Meardi, who is the founder and, I guess, chief everything, right? President, CEO?
CEO, yeah.
So it was April 1st, 2015 when vNova launched the Perseus codec, and I've been in the codec business a long time, and a codec can be the most wonderful thing in the world, but until it becomes totally usable, until everybody can access it, and it's not going to be adopted by a lot of people. And what I'm hearing is that's an experience you kind of went through over the last 3 years. So tell us what you've done to go from the codec to a well-rounded, what would Crossing the Chasm say? He would say a finished product.
Exactly.
So tell us about the last 3 years.
Wow, fantastic, and totally. I would like to write a book about what it means, and actually the chasm, I can say a lot about it. Pretty cool adventure. Yes, of course we knew it was hard, and when we launched in 2015, essentially I was very careful that I wanted to make sure that people understood the credibility that we have as a company, because what I said at the beginning, people were like, come on, BS, it cannot be possibly true, too good to be true. And I'm very glad that in 2016 we proved that it was true. Everything that we promised we did, and it's important because we like credibility and reliability. However, the codec was still harder to deploy at scale, and you saw it yourself. You saw that it worked, but at the same time, it was difficult to use it everywhere, and especially for streaming. At the same time, we're on a mission to give more quality to everybody, more with less, and we are in dire need for that. You know, AV1 and HEVC. AV1 is actually the response to that need, and we need to help for that. So we worked a lot in order to productize all the libraries and all the tools that are necessary to really deploy Perseus everywhere on all devices today in a snap.
And in all browsers. So you did some wonderful things with Edge. Some wonderful. What did you have to do to get those to get Perseus playing in those browsers without a plugin?
Well, you know, and I need to thank Colleen Henry of Facebook, because it's her idea to use in a clever way WebGL, because she understood our codec extremely well, and essentially WebGL is the answer. You know, essentially our codec decodes in hardware using the combination of a base codec that is already available in terms of hardware acceleration.
So that's H.264.
Yeah, right now mostly H.264 or HEVC, but in the future also AV1 and VP9. So, you know, we are codec agnostic in that sense, but we use that hardware in a different way, and then we use the graphics pipeline, which is dedicated hardware as well, and we combine the two so that essentially we can compress better and decode in hardware on 100% of devices and 100% of browsers plugin free. And we said it, and I'm very glad that here at NAB we are showing it with the first global channel that deployed from a major broadcaster. So we have a news channel that is out, deployed, and it's already on a few millions phones and tablets and PCs. And it's showing what we promised, because we promised with Perseus 2 we would bring HD, Full HD 1080p live to below 1 to 2 megabits. We are actually doing 1080p at 980 kilobits. You saw it yourself, and it works. It's actually quite nice. 720p at 450 kilobits and down to 360p 120 kilobits. These are numbers, but they mean money. They mean more people watching, which actually means more advertising revenues, more subscription revenues, more quality, more satisfaction, and less cost. You know, it's up to 60% lower cost per minute in terms of bandwidth.
So I don't know this, but how do you know, I want to watch your video on Chrome. You're saying it's OpenGL or whatever technology you mentioned. I don't have to download any kind of specific. Nope. Where does the player or where does the decoder come from?
Well, it's actually in JavaScript and we have a host of players. You know, we have integrated with Shaka, HLS.js, Video.js, or professional players such as Theo Player. So people have a range of options from open source if they want to Tinkerware open source, or professional players if they want professional players. But essentially, the JavaScript handles the coordination of the hardware blocks in order to make sure that they're used properly. So essentially what is done in JavaScript is essentially very little. Most of the processing is done in hardware, and that's why we can achieve also 1080p 60 decoding even on phones, and actually it's as efficient, or sometimes scaringly also even more efficient than just decoding native H.264.
So you use a player that has your decoder integrated into it,
Yes.
like OpenTally or some of the other ones you mentioned.
Yeah.
Once you have that, then it just plays in any browser.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also an ultimate fallback, because one of the things that we noticed with this deployment is that we were doing 1080p. And the customer at the beginning was like, some of our devices are so old that they cannot decode 1080p because not even H.264 they can, and so we should now blacklist the top profile for them. And I said, no, not a problem, because Perseus is a hierarchical codec, so essentially if automatically the decoder detects that if the player is not, or the device is not powerful enough to do 1080p or Ultra HD, it can scale back to a lower resolution and decode just, for instance, the base codec. And so this means that you don't, in a hassle-free fashion, you can upgrade the qualities, push up the resolutions and the perceived quality, lower the bit rates, and you serve 100% of devices without fearing that you leave somebody behind.
So we've got the browser situation. What does it take to play Perseus on mobile?
So on mobile, well, you can still use HTML5 if you want, or you can use native libraries like ExoPlayer, so native players. You can use AV Foundation's type interfaces, or you can use, again, professional players like TheoPlayer, Universal Player, Visual On. Visual On is coming also for HTML5, and essentially you have, again, the range of options between using native players if you want to tinker with open source, or professional players if you want kind of a unified player experience across devices.
And packaging, is that going to be Dash or?
Packaging, we're completely neutral, because essentially Perseus creates an MP4 or a TS, totally normal. We put the Perseus enhancement in standard enhancement information. So as long as you don't strip it, you use the normal packaging. For instance, right now we're deployed on Wowza, we're deployed on standard packaging. So the deployment we have right now are on HLS, but we can also, of course, Dash for web. But we are packaging neutral, DRM neutral, because essentially at the encapsulation level, it's for all practical purposes. If it's Perseus plus H.264 and H.264 stream, if it's Perseus plus HEVC and HEVC stream, Perseus plus VP9 and VP9 stream, Perseus plus AV1 and AV1 stream.
What's the monetization model? How are you making money?
So first of all, it doesn't require any enablement royalty. That's the important thing, because we know that the big problem is that these guys are becoming important, and right now manufacturers cannot pay dollars of royalties to enable these devices, because it's too much versus the price of especially low-cost mobile devices. And that's also why the industry reacted strongly with the fact that we needed royalty-free codecs. Perseus is actually already achieving that today without even necessarily changing the hardware, because all the royalties are already there, all the hardware that is necessary is already there. So there's only a licensing to use it, which is actually pretty low. And it's actually the licensing that you would pay to use whatever professional software, because if you need to deploy a service to millions of people, of course, it's not for free. Either you do it yourself with a group of people and then you pay their salaries, or you need to pay somebody for software. So what we sell and what we license is actually reliable, tested software with assistance that allows providers and people to stream quality services.
Does that mean, if I'm using TheoPlayer, I'm going to pay them something? Are you included in that? Or?
Actually, right now you would pay them and you would pay us, because we are separate with own bundle. So but conceptually it's the same, and our license would be, depending on the services, follows the usual models. So it can be a flat fee, or it can be a per stream, or it can be a per user per year. It depends on the business model of the customers and on preferences. But we have a number of models that are not surprising. They are the models of any add-on that you have, from ad insertion analytics, audio codecs, the typical thing that you would expect.
So what's the encoding side look like?
The encoding side is very simple, because if you have an FFmpeg-based workflow, very easy. There's you can still use an FFmpeg with the Perseus based codec, and actually, if you have a professional encoder, there are already a range of professional encoder solutions that integrated our libraries, such as Imagine Communications. There's Rio Video. There, Harmonic did with the Perseus 1, didn't do it yet for Perseus 2, but in any case. There are many others that are coming that I cannot announce, but that are about to be announced. So there are a range of options, and in general, it's very easy to integrate it. We also have cloud-based solutions. We're already integrated within Azure, within AWS. We also have FPGA-based solutions for hyperscale operators in the cloud with F1 instances. We're partnering with Xilinx. It was one of the announcements here. And we're already also integrated with NG codec for Perseus plus HEVC, Perseus plus VP9, H.264 and AV1 coming.
So which partners have you announced that are actually using the codec in distribution at the show?
Here at the show we announced the first American customer, which is very important because so far we were active in Europe and Asia, so we're very proud to announce UCAST. UCAST, aside from being a young company in any case, is backed by Canon, who is a very important person in the industry, and so I'm honored that Chairman and CEO of DivX immediately saw in Perseus something very cool to adopt for his own business. I like a lot their business because they essentially want to expand the monetization of content owners, and so they immediately saw how the business impact of Perseus can be important, because we can really expand the audience, improve the qualities, and lower the costs, so make that service more impactful. So we're proud of that. I cannot announce the name of the broadcaster that you well know what it is because we didn't have the time to approve the press release, but I'm very proud of that because it's a globally available news channel, so everybody can see that it's live video.
When will you announce that?
As soon as we agree with their marketing department. But it's actually a big and important European broadcaster. And so I'm very proud about that. We also have another couple of announcements coming that we couldn't finalize in time for NAB, but a major player in Africa and also another one in the US coming soon.
Okay. Well, I mean, this has been an NAB that was largely dominated by talks of AV1 and HEVC, and it's important to recognize that there are other alternatives out there, and Perseus is one of the ones that's gotten the most traction, and as far as I can see. So congratulations on that, and thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you. And of course, we like HEVC, we like AV1. We can enhance everything. Thank you.